The time is 6:10 p.m. on January 12th, 2026, and we herefore call to order this meeting of the Human Relations Commission of the City of Boulder. Looks like all five of us are in attendance. Carlos, Mindy, Jorge, and Emily. Great. I think first order is agenda adjustments. Does anybody have any adjustments that need made to the agenda?
Nope.
No. Okay. Seeing none, we can move forward to the approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from December 15th meeting?
I move to approve them.
I second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes? I see five. Yes. The yeses have it. Cool. So the minutes are approved, and we will now move into open comment. Seems like we have one person for open comment. Lynn has her hand raised. I think we'll hear from Lynn. And then Mark after Lynn. So Elizabeth will promote. Oh yeah. Do you read this, Elizabeth? Or do I do this?
Yep, no, I'm doing it. Sorry, just managing.
Cool.
For anyone watching this evening, we just had a kind of last minute change up in meeting coordination. And so my apologies for any delays kind of juggling between screens. Elizabeth Crow, City of Boulder Housing and Human Services. I'll be stepping in for Christian Phillips this evening. So before we begin, just a quick review of the public participation guidelines. The city has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic conversations. This vision supports physical and emotional safety for community members, staff, and board commission members, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. My apologies. For more information about this vision and the community engagement process, please visit https://bouldercolorado.gov/services/productive-atmospheres. So each speaker, and it looks like we have two, will have 3 minutes to be able to share. I will use my cell phone to time and do a gentle come off mute again when the 3 minutes are up to let speakers know their time is up. I will stop sharing my screen. And Aaron will go. We have Mark Fear and Lynn Siegel. Who would you like to hear from first?
Yep. Lynn, you had your hand raised, so we'll bring Lynn in first. Just a reminder to our attendees to speak slowly and clearly so there's time for the interpreters to interpret you. Looking forward to hearing your statements.
And Lynn, you should be allowed to talk.
Thanks, Aaron. I'll try to be explicit. I wish my image was on the screen, and I want to see you. I want to see who I'm addressing, please. So would you adjust that?
I'm not sure how to adjust, Lynn. You should be able to see.
I can see you now. Now I see my.
If you move to gallery view, you'll be able to see all of us.
Hang on. I can't access gallery view. You have to do it at your end.
Unfortunately, I think that's a setting that you'll have to make on your computer.
No, it's not on mine. I can do it on every other city board. And I just testified on Tab, and I just testified on Prairie Dogs. Wait, did I? I need to get to Prairie Dogs. So could you please hurry, get the screen on to see you?
Let me try. Okay, thanks, Lynn. Let me try here. Let's see. How's that?
Yay, did it. Sweet.
I'm going to stop the watch over and then start your time right now.
So Okay, so I don't, thank you, Elizabeth. So I don't know if I should talk about homelessness or if I should talk about my situation with my retrofit, but I guess I'll talk about all of them. I feel kind of homeless because I'm in my house for 25 years, okay? 25, count them. And I've got a long-term, everyone, has an internal financial plan, and it might be very complex for some people. Well, mine was stymied because I got an energy retrofit of $55,000. I waited a year for it. It's free. They give it to you. I waited a year to see if I was eligible. Then once I got it, they said, well, there's only one caveat. You can't be involved in any of it. And you even have to be off the property. They put me up in a hotel. I didn't want to go. I have 3 bedrooms I can live in. They let my housemate stay from Munich. Like unbelievable. When I tell my friends all over the community about this, no one can believe it. They put a mini split in my dining room, which I don't use. They put an air handler upstairs. I have a 1,000-foot main house and it has a gas furnace, so it didn't need much. But the addition had resistive heat, which is very energy intensive, and I won't use for 25 years. I'm serious about that. But they didn't consult me because I was being gaslighted by the county. And I was being gaslighted by the county because I exposed them in their energy retrofit program 10 years ago, whereby they were forcing one of their vendors to do a solar install under adverse conditions, which would have put the vendor at liability and, for their warranty. And I couldn't believe it. They wouldn't tell me why they had dropped that vendor after I had spoken to the vendor at length. So I was angry that my time was wasted, and the vendor said they were being forced to do this job under adverse conditions. So then the county was mad at me for being mad, so they gaslighted me. 10 years later, I find out through the CARE, Colorado Affordable Residential Energy Program, that I'm eligible, but I'm gaslighted. Well, it's just a disaster. In my attic, I plan to pop up that space for storage so that I can get a new roof, which I've needed for 15 years, so that I can get solar, so that I can fuel a geothermal heat pump. But it's a long-term thing. I have $900,000, but I'm not going to put it into geothermal heat pump until I know my whole financial situation. My kid's father wanted abortions, then he beat me up, then he fought me for custody. So I feel very responsible for these kids. And if they can live 2 more weeks of their life on
You're at 3
$900,000,
minutes.
that's more important to me because of climate change. So I'm dedicated to this, and I'm very upset as a human. That's my relationship with the city of Boulder
Lynn, sorry,
County.
your 3 minutes
Thanks so
are
much.
up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Lynn, and I'm sorry having to go through all that, but I appreciate you bringing all of it forward. We will now hear from Mark.
Hi, Mark, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Howdy, folks. I wasn't actually intending on speaking, but I'll just say a few words. First of all, congratulations, Aaron, on your ascension to the high office of chair. Um, and just a general comment that, when I talk to people in the community about different boards and commissions, of course, they haven't heard of the vast majority of them, certainly not yours. And I would love to see, this is perhaps a city council issue because they're in the midst still of dealing with boards and commissions and changing policies, but I'd love to see the HRC get more visibility in the community. Um, I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who knew that you all existed, let alone what you do. So just saying, it's good work that you're doing, and I'd love to see more people find out about you, and maybe even huge ask here, but maybe even have them comment to you all about the work you're doing. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your comment, Mark. I think you might enjoy some of the things we discussed in our work plan. We're talking a lot about visibility, but appreciate you naming all of that. Wondering if we have any more comments, any responses from other commissioners or from staff?
I'd just like to speak to Lynn to your comment about the retrofitting and the contractors. First, I'm really sorry about your experience. That's sounds like a very destabilizing experience to have happen with the county program and in your own home. So I'm sorry to hear about that. And I work in building decarbonization. I can tell you that unfortunately you're not alone in at least from the contractor perspective in quite varied experiences with different contractors. I do want to let you know about the program that I work for, which is Powerhead Colorado. It's another federal program, but one of the attributes or programs does have energy advising. So that might just be a program that you and other community members might be interested in. And there is a contractor portion, making sure that contractors are all doing viable, high quality, trustworthy work. So again, sorry to hear about your experience, Lynn. That sounds awful as an understatement. And I hope that you're able to resolve it and come to a good place. Our housing is a human right, and to have the comfort, especially in extreme temperatures, is also a human rights issue. So thanks for coming to speak with us.
Awesome. Looks like no further comments. One last chance. Okay. Well, thank you, Lynn and Mark, once again for coming and joining us. We will now move into our next session, which is action items. And our one primary action item for this week is reviewing and approving the 2026 work plan. So we'll move into that. We had the draft that I put together last time with some work from, and then me and Mindy have did some revising. Mindy did some really good things to make sure we had like clear objectives and action items, so we have a little bit more structure. And so I can share my screen. I'll send a request, and we can take a look over that. Mindy, anything you want to mention before we start sharing this?
No, I think our aim was to try to take in some of the feedback that we heard in the last meeting, and hopefully we accomplished that. But if we didn't, we certainly are looking for feedback. So
Fantastic. Is this showing up well? Let me see if I can. Yeah. So make that a little big. Wait, is this? I'm showing a different thing. Am I showing the wrong thing? Oh, wait, yeah, no, I think this is right. You're seeing the HRC work plan? Okay, cool.
And Aaron, sorry to interject, but if you're wondering who the other icons at the top belong to, I shared the document just prior to the meeting with our interpreters, so they could just have a quick scan before they
Fantastic.
for the meeting.
Great. Cool. So what we're looking at for the HRC work plan, we kind of like distilled our core purpose of the HRC to foster a more connected and inclusive Boulder where all community members feel heard, supported, and empowered to participate, especially those whose voices are most often overlooked. And then again, our focus areas were bridging vertical gaps, which is community to government institutions. That's some of that visibility work that Mark mentioned. Bridging horizontal gaps, community to community. This is some of the difficult dialogues kind of worked, and supporting marginalized and underrepresented communities. I appreciate that Lynn spoke in regards to homeless communities as well. So it's like all of this is included. So we can start going into the three of these. I'm curious if anybody has any high-level thoughts about that core language of the core purpose and those focus areas before I just start diving into the sections. Great. So seeing none, I'll just keep moving on. So again, bridging vertical gaps. What we have here is many Boulder community members experience barriers to engaging with city government. Barriers may include limited awareness of available resources, uncertainty about how to participate in civic processes, language or access challenge, or belief that their voice will not reach decision makers. The Human Relations Commission seeks to reduce these gaps by serving as a visible, accessible, and trusted bridge between community members and city institutions. So again, this speaks a lot to people not knowing what's going on in the government, but also not knowing about HRC and like the different bridges they can have. So again, kind of what Mark was voicing there. So we kind of like distilled as like key objectives. Like we want to increase awareness in the community of the HRC as well as of the Human Rights Ordinance, seeing that as one of our core responsibilities. Improve community understanding of how to engage with city processes and resources. Strengthen communication and accountability between the HRC and City Council, and reduce barriers to reporting discrimination and assessing the claims process. So just kind of seeing, yeah, it looks like you might have something to add there,
Yeah, I
Elizabeth.
just wanted to say, Elena has raised her hand just to remind everyone to please speak slowly for interpretation.
I will slow down. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. So these are the key objectives. And then for the activities, we've outlined our strengthen HRC relationship with City Council through more consistent two-way communication, increase community awareness of the role of the HRC as well as the Human Rights Ordinance, and help community members understand how to navigate city resources, services, and pathways to increase engagement and participation. So I'd love to kind of hear what people think about this first one. I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of the key objectives and activities, which might make sense for this. It's important to have the objectives, and sometimes the activities is just doing the thing. But I'm curious what people think about this first section and like how we've outlined these objectives and activities. Or do people just think this is great? We can go ahead and say yes. Yeah, Jorge.
No, I think it's fantastic, Aaron. I think that we will need to translate the activities into more concrete and objective actions on when, who, and then you just allow us to execute better. But I think it summarizes pretty well the first point.
Fantastic. I'm curious if you have any direct things that you think might change to make that more active, or if we can just save that and do that later.
I just think we need to reflect on, when we mention strengthen relationship with the city council, okay, how we do that, what kind of things we need to do to actually strengthen that relationship, increase awareness. What does that mean?
Right.
That's what I'm.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah, a good one. I think getting clear on how we do these, I think the activities can use some fleshing out. And I think, yeah, it'll be a nice point of conversation for us to like talk about. I think the key objectives are largely clear, but like getting clear on these activities might be a good little thing for us to engage in together. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Mindy? I saw your hand up for a second.
Pretty much that like not necessarily for tonight, but drilling down into what are the kinds of things we could do to increase community awareness. I mean, Emily and I were at the Boards and Commissions vacancy event the other night, and we were able to speak to some people about the kinds of work we do and what other opportunities exist for us to do that kind of awareness raising. My assumption is we have no actual resources to do that, so we're not going to like have commercials about HRC, but like identifying and taking advantage of all the opportunities where we can just elevate our visibility.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm so glad that you two made it to that and were representing us there. Cool. Oh yeah, Emily.
Yeah, all of our talk, and I definitely agree with Jorge about having it be more specific about the activities. I am curious about more on the process perspective of how we want to use this document. And part of why I ask is that all of these could take up, I mean, I don't think we would spend a ton of time on strengthening relationship, especially not during our meetings, but do we want to prioritize some of these activities, for example, or do we want to transfer them to an Excel spreadsheet and then make kind of a Gantt chart of times where we might prioritize certain objectives, but then also obviously the activities therein. So Yeah, just curious. Maybe this is a question for afterwards, but I think like the work plan from my perspective is only as supportive as kind of how we interact with it after its creation.
Yeah. Something I'm sensing is that it's like will be very good to make sure like the language here feels clear, like the top level language and then the key objectives feel clear. And then I do think having like an ongoing conversation about the activities and like just letting that be a thing that we presence throughout each meeting is like, hey, is there any way that we feel like we might be falling short? And are there any activities that we might engage in? And so I kind of imagine the like key objectives part is a little more like static and is like, cool, this feels pretty clear. But I kind of imagine the activities thing might be something that we are being a little bit more dynamic about, but this kind of gives us a frame to figure out where we want to act. I'm curious of that.
In some ways it does. I think getting to that process level of like, is this going to be a running agenda item, for example,
Mhm.
every meeting? But then also, I mean, bridging vertical gaps, bridging horizontal gaps, and engaging with and supporting marginalized communities, there can be strong overlap between those, but there are distinct work streams within each of those priorities. So are we holding each of them equally, for example, or is it okay if for quarter 1 we only focus on bridging vertical gaps, quarter 2, like I'm curious about the prioritization as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good. Given we're like a volunteer board, like my inclination is usually like if there's things that people want to take and things people want to lead, then like I could see this just being a frame to like help make sure people are like given some structure in which like, hey, I would like to do this initiative. But yeah, I think these are great questions and we should continue to dive in. My inclination would be to kind of continue to read so we can kind of like have the whole structure and then maybe look at it as a whole since it seems like a lot of what we're looking at is overall like high level view of how we're looking at this. So it might be helpful to get the whole thing in. Does that feel right?
Yeah, appreciate that process comment, Aaron. And I'm curious, I don't know, I guess I agree with what you were saying about the key objectives feeling a little more clear and then the activities so far not feeling
Yeah.
as clear. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was kind of the first bit, and this speaks to visibility, the vertical, like how are we increasing awareness, not just of HRC and human rights, but how we're engaging, and then bridging horizontal gaps, community to community. While Boulder's diverse, meaningful connection across communities does not always occur organically. Differences in culture, language, lived experience, and political perspective can lead to misunderstanding, isolation, or polarization. The HRC seeks to create opportunities for dialogue, relationship building, and mutual understanding across communities, particularly where connections are currently weak. One example is that while about 20% of Boulder identifies as Latinx, the connection between our Latinx community and the broader Boulder community is often weak. Our goal is to strengthen these cross-community connections. So the key objectives here, strengthen cross-community relationships and understanding, create spaces for respectful dialogue across difference, and address isolation experienced by specific communities within Boulder. And then what we've outlined for activities, continue the Difficult Dialogues project in partnership with the University of Colorado, in partnership with CU, Dr. Jennifer Ho, and the interview game. Strengthen connections between Latinx community and broader Boulder community. Support facilitated conversations that allow people with differing ideas, backgrounds, or viewpoints to listen, learn, and engage constructively. If there's anything directly on there, happy to hear things, but I can also just read through the third, and then we can talk about all of it as a whole. Cool. So the third one is supporting marginalized and underrepresented communities. Some community members are consistently less visible in civic processes and more likely to experience barriers to participation, safety, and access to resources. The HRC prioritizes centering these communities in its work, ensuring they are seen, heard, and connected to support, while helping the city better understand and respond to their needs. Key objectives, ensure HRC efforts center those most likely to be missed or marginalized, elevate community concerns that may otherwise go unheard, improve access to information, resources, and support. And activities center communities most at risk of falling through systemic gaps in HRC outreach and advocacy, support and monitor issues affecting unhoused neighbors, including engagement with the Central Park planning process, raise awareness of community members experiencing hardship, discrimination.
Aaron, sorry to interrupt.
Too fast.
I think we're going to be requested to slow down.
Cool.
Rosabelle, is that correct?
Amazing. Amazing.
Aaron, one of my guidance is just to count to 3 before starting the next sentence. That might help.
Awesome. Cool. So in activities, raise awareness of community members experiencing hardship, discrimination, or exclusion. And then finally, connect individuals and communities to resources they may not know exist or feel comfortable accessing. Cool. So this is kind of like what we've outlined for these 3 core categories. And I think first I would feel very curious to hear any like high level process perspectives of how we're orienting, but then especially to hear if it feels like we got it right in terms of our key, like the first language and the key objectives. I think if we can like get clear on that, then I think the activities can still use fleshed out. But that might be easier if we feel like we've got clarity on the key objectives and like the overall language. So would love any thoughts from people around that.
Like I'll say, I love it. I think it just reflects what we've been discussing nicely. Again, for me, it's, how do we make it live? How do we materialize that? That's for me the next step. But overall, I think it's pretty clear on what we want to achieve and on the top 3 priorities that we agreed.
Awesome. Any other thoughts about high level language or key objectives?
Yeah, I agree with Jorge. Thank you, Aaron and Mindy, for encapsulating our discussions in a really coherent way. I think some of the activities could almost go up to objectives. And then we could maybe leave activities pretty much blank at this point and fill in, I guess, Aaron, if you wouldn't mind going down to difficult dialogues. I think that's an example where it's like, okay, what specifically are some next activities with difficult dialogues that we can just put in there to show what we're doing to continue that project. I guess for me in project management, that's what's helpful of like, how do I know I'm making progress? Oh, I'm doing, are we meeting again with Dr. Ho? Are we like assigning everyone go to one of the conversations, activities like that, versus just like,
Yep.
let's continue this project.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's good. And at a personal level, I haven't been able to prioritize that one as much. I don't actually have total clarity of what the next steps are there, but I think it's a good question to be asking. Any specific things you were thinking when you were saying some of the key objectives? Like I could see the strength and connections between Latinx, like that being a key objective.
Mm-hmm.
That
Absolutely.
makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same with supporting marginalized and underrepresented communities. I think there were a couple activities, those objectives like center
Right.
communities most at
I
risk.
think this one was kind of already there, so can probably just remove this since this is a duplicate. Or do you prefer this language? Maybe it's like this replaces this since they're kind of,
Sure. Yeah,
yeah,
that one's a little more specific.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, I still think support and monitor could be an objective. It's not particularly prescriptive.
I think so.
And they're all really,
Yeah, these ones mostly actually do feel like objectives.
yeah, and I think they point a direction in how we might operationalize or meet those objectives, but they're
Yeah.
not, we're going to
Yeah.
look at this community survey, um, and then write a white paper summarizing the results and present it at city council, or, like
Yeah.
that's the level that I've
Yeah. And I do like this level of kind of like letting activities be kind of like a little bit more of a blank slate to let us all like think about this and kind of like maybe our intention can be to approve this work plan, but to like still come back to it as we like come back to it regularly as activities become more clear, but to still like move towards approving this work plan to like let our overall structure be clear. Do you think both of these activities might just go into key objectives? These are,
I do think
yeah,
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, Carlos, I see you're unmuted. I wonder if you have something. Not. I wonder if I imagine this supporting facilitated conversations might be a key objective, which I think, and I think that like kind of goes in the difficult dialogues, but maybe this difficult dialogues, like I don't actually know what the direct action is there. I think that might be a thing to bring forward. So it might just kind of fit under this facilitated conversation. I could see this going in here. This is a duplicate of that. And this is a duplicate of that, but I think it's better. So I wonder how people feel about that. We're kind of taking activities. I think I would propose like just letting this one go until like the new clarity emerges, but like leaving it in here. And then we're kind of left with just key objectives and centering that. Just some thoughts. Yeah, Jorge.
No, I think that's probably why I was saying that we were missing the how, because
Yeah.
most of them were more objectives than actions. So
Yeah.
it makes all sense. So probably we need that second round of working down what are the actions and the activities that will support those objectives.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I wonder if let's say we won't move towards a full approval yet, but do people feel like this without any activities, like what we've written here, captures what we feel the overall like mission and goal is, like our key objectives? Do we feel like there's any changes that want to be made here?
Oh.
Yeah, Mindy.
Sorry, I raised my real hand versus my
Yeah.
Zoom hand. The only thing I would say is because we're doing this in real time, maybe you and I can have time to go back through and make sure there's not, seems like there might be some redundancy and we can kind of cull things a little bit because to Emily's point, like it could take us all of our time to do probably one of these things. And I just want to make sure that we are wrapping our arms around like objectives and goals are fine and but let's just make sure we're not redundant and also maybe I don't know where we are if we would want to prioritize in any way. I'm just raising that as a question mark
Mhm.
just given the breadth of this list of objectives.
Totally. I think that's good. Any other thoughts? Yeah. I mean, so I think given that there's like multiple options, we could take more time in this meeting to feel like we like really refine that. Or we could approve this as it is, saying this is a good work plan, at least a good enough work plan. And then we can always suggest changes to it in the future. Like any meeting, we can come back and say, I think I'd like to change this and this, and any one of us can come with suggestions, and then we can approve that as a group. Because I think it's nice to kind of have something solid. I'm not attached to that, but that's how I would lean. And then like around that is like the activities thing. We could take time today to like start to get clear on some of those activities, or we can leave activities intentionally blank from this work plan, approve that, and then like give ourselves space over the coming week to reflect. Carlos.
Estoy de acuerdo en lo que estás diciendo, Aaron, de que podemos empezar con esto e irlo mejorando en el transcurso de nuestro trabajo y de lo que vayamos haciendo. Me gustan todos estos puntos, estoy de acuerdo en lo que está aquí y yo creo que pues ya nada más nos queda echarlo a andar, ¿sí? Hay que, hay que trabajar en esto y conforme vayamos viendo qué es lo que falta, lo vamos incluyendo. Creo que me gusta cómo está.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlos. Cool. Anybody else have any thoughts they want to add in here?
Yeah, I guess for me, I'll just reiterate that I appreciate the work. I think this definitely reflects our conversations we've had so far really beautifully and concisely. To your point earlier, Erin, about us being an all volunteer commission, I guess I would feel more comfortable with, and I'm leaving, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm not gonna like hammer in the wheel here. But I would feel more comfortable if there was more ownership over some of the objectives and potential delineation of activities from those objectives. Um, I think maybe like a way we could move forward, a possibility would be for everyone to look over the key objectives between now and the next meeting, and then decide on one, two, three, however many, people felt comfortable with saying, these are the objectives I feel really committed supporting, because what we've found, what I've witnessed over the last few years participating in this commission is in order for activities to happen, we have to be willing to step up and take leadership for them. So it's great to have some of these objectives written down. But if I don't know that I see a firm purpose unless they have, some potential legs. So that's given this work plan, again, I think it's a beautiful plan, and I don't necessarily feel confident right now that it's going to support us unless we kind of talk more about the structure of how we might operationalize it.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right on point there. And I think that's like an amazing piece of homework that we can all go from here with, is to like once we feel like this is clear and it's like we're orienting in the right way, then I think it would be an amazing thing for each of us to take time with this work plan over the coming month and to really consider which of these objectives feel most important to us, and to see if there's ways that we would like to lead action around those. I think that would be an amazing way an amazing process to set in motion.
Just one more thing that I think like one potential thing, like we all have our lives happening, and so I know this might not be perfect, but what might feel good for me is like if every meeting each person had something to report on, each person had something to contribute and share. And so part of what I like about people taking ownership over different objectives is then, Mindy shares out about her project, and it's not just only Mindy is working on it, it's just Mindy is in ownership of, moving things forward and taking usually these small actions that are required, and then coming back to the group for consultation, discussion, encouragement, whatever we need. But I feel a little bit more energy if like everyone is in firmer ownership. And Elizabeth, maybe you have other insight. Maybe that's not something that you feel would work. I'd be curious your kind of institutional observations.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. In part, as kind of city staff had, and then in part, all the other, kind of things, experiences. I would echo with that. I think again, you talked at the retreat about kind of some options for how you wanted to use your meetings, and you have a lot of latitude kind of within the regular agenda to determine what you want to talk about. Some things that have, I think, worked in the past are so for example, for outreach, and this is something that's been a part of the HRC agenda for a while, but kind of dividing up, having a conversation about, well, who's going to go to MLK Day events this month? Who is going to participate in Black History Month, who's, wants to seize an opportunity to be publicly, kind of badge on and just engaging with folks. Those are examples, I think, already where there's been some conversation at meetings to say within an activity, right? If the activities are to be present at community events, then you can obviously go a step further and decide, well, which ones, who's going to go, and that's one example. There are also some examples, or will be some examples where Christian will be kind of picking up outreach again to go out into the community and talk with organizations and different groups about the Human Rights Ordinance, failure to pay wages, and does someone want to accompany him, right? And kind of help with that. So, I mean, those are just examples of where you could spend time kind of giving yourselves assignments and then use time at the meetings to have report back on learnings. And again, how does that advance towards some of the objectives and goals that you have listed here? So that's probably stating the obvious, but I think those just some really clear examples of what's in the work plan now and how you could use a table in the document or an Excel spreadsheet or something to just kind of revisit, capture those learnings, and have that inform what you might want to do next.
Amazing. Yeah, I love those ideas. Jorge.
I love it, Elizabeth. I think that's for me the next step on building my personal plan on how do I support the goals and the objectives and have my clear direction or my own set of objectives to the team and how do each of us can collaborate. But we need that objectivity on what we're going to be doing, and probably we'll need your help, Christian help, or the team help. For me, at least, that I'm new to the commission on. Okay, what's out there that I can participate. What type of events. And then just put together that individual plan for each of us to, as Emily was saying, just come to the meetings and report back on that plan or personal plan. I'm really looking forward for that.
Awesome. So it sounds like there's some good, clear direction emerging of we would love to flesh out the activities and sense into where in these objectives each of us feels like we would like to express the most ownership. And I love the ideas around starting to have some more structure of our meeting of what are the objectives and activities that we're attending to, and can we report that. And I was also thinking about some of these objectives, maybe stuff we're doing specifically within the HRC and the HRC activities. And also it might be interesting if some of these objectives are things that each of us feel like we're tending to in other areas of our life. And we can also let that be a way that we report to include, the same way that like Carlos is doing a lot of community work in the Latinx community and regularly invites us in. Could be useful to have this be a space. So all that is to say, how do people feel about like that being a point of homework, that we kind of like stamp this as our working work plan, and then we all give ourselves the next month to reflect on which of these objectives we really feel a call towards, and we come back next month with each of us saying where we feel most energized to like hold some ownership and responsibility, and also maybe any ideas for direct actions that we want to initiate. Does that feel like a interesting, good shape to people? Cool. I'm seeing thumbs up.
I may suggest probably, Elizabeth, Christian, during the month, if you can provide us with more information about, what traditionally can be done in each of these three, elements of our work plan, that can just help us, bring more ideas or insights.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we as staff would be more than happy to help with. That I think could come in several different ways for, in conversation with Aaron and Carlos leading up to meetings, or if there are specific questions that any of you have for us to say, is there something happening that HRC member that's an opportunity? It's like ask us directly, right? If it's not a proactive suggestion, something that we're aware of, and we'd be happy to provide some guidance on that. And at the same time, I know this is a little bit of a theme for me, but just also letting you know if an idea comes up, whether there is another board or commission or group that's already kind of holding that topic or that issue, so that you have the option to connect with them or support, again, something that someone else is doing, or just say, great, it's happening over there. Now we can focus on other things. So we can help with all of those.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. So, given all of this, I'm curious if people feel okay about moving towards approving this as our current work plan, understanding that like it is a living document and it will change. Do we feel good about taking that to a vote? Can I hear a motion to approve the work plan? I see. Moved by Jorge. Do I hear a second? Okay. And Mindy seconds?
Yo secundo la moción.
Very good. So also second the motion. Thank you. All in favor of approving the stated HRC work plan? Looks like it is unanimous. The work plan is approved. Given that, that will conclude our action items for this section. Our next section is for discussion informational item, and it looks like none are in there. So we will move into the staff update section. Anything from staff, Elizabeth?
Yeah, just a few things. Let me bring up the slide again. See, can everybody see that?
Oh, there it is. Yes.
Great. So the first thing is just to remind you all that the city is collecting applications for boards and commissions, not just the HRC. Sadly, we will have a vacancy with Emily's departure from the commission. But we are accepting applications for a number of boards and commissions, and those are accepted through January 25. So the link is here. There's kind of one application process. And so if you know of people who might be interested or organizations whose members or participants might be interested, please help spread the word. Christian and I have a flyer that I believe he shared already. And of course, Mindy and Emily, you were at the kind of recruitment event. But if any of you have ideas for things that you'd like to do, if you want us to draft an email that you can edit and send out to people, any support that you might need from staff in order to help get the word out would be great. So then later this month, but starting very soon, we have MLK Junior Day events. So every year, the city's Human Relations Fund, which is managed by our Human Services Investments team here in our department, supports a number of community celebrations and educational events. And here's a list of three that are taking place. And probably not the only events happening in the community, but these are three that are supported through the Human Relations Fund. The first is on January 18, and at the time I made this slide, the time is still to be announced, but we can check on that. With Second Baptist Church, that's actually going to be held at the Jewish Community Center. On January 19, Modus Theater is presenting an event at the Gordon Gamm Theater at the Dairy Arts Center. And then Ilale Hill organization is also having a celebration a little bit later on January 24 called Community Action, Celebrate Diversity, and Champion Equity. And that time currently is TBA, but we'll go ahead and check the announcement and update. And that will be at Congregation Har Hashem. So those are three events that we know of and want to be sure you are aware of. And that's all we have for today. If you have any questions, happy to answer those. But this is the information that Christian had prepared to share tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Yep.
Any questions for Elizabeth? Seeing none, let's move into commissioners' updates. Anybody have an update they would like to share?
Not updates on my side.
I'll
Emma?
share an update. So I just wanted to brief you all. Mindy, feel free to add anything on our commissioner open house. Surprisingly well turned out for the 2.5 hours. There was a fairly steady flow of interested humans. Unfortunately, not too many people stopped by our table. We talked to maybe, what do you think, Mindy? 5 people?
3 or 4 maybe?
3 or 4. Really, really nice relationship building between Christian, Mindy, and I, and the couple people we met. One person in particular, I'm really hoping applies, and I think a good sign for hopefully for that event to continue in the future, the open house model. I'll put it in the chat. I also just wanted to let folks know about another Martin Luther King Day event. It's happening on Thursday, sponsored by CU. It's a convocation. The theme is Imagining Tomorrow, Afrofuturist Visions of Community Creativity and Collective Care. Incredible keynote. I don't know if you all know Dr. Ibram Kendi. I had the pleasure of teaching his books in my classes at CU. He's an amazing anti-racism critical scholar. So he's going to be coming. It's a free event. I think they just asked that you register RSVP. So that's this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Mackey Auditorium. And then just a side note, the Modus Theater event, I believe, is 3 p.m. on Monday. and that always sells out. So if you want to go to that one, please reserve your spot if you haven't already. And those, I mean, I will be going to both of those events. The Reminders are such an incredible music group. Holy cow. Yeah.
That was the one I saw you at a show at the Velvet Elk for them, right?
What was that?
Did I see you at a show for the Velvet Elk when they like played with another band?
Oh no, I didn't. I don't think I was there,
Maybe
but
that
I'm glad you saw them.
I couldn't remember if it was. I don't remember if I saw the Reminders. I remember seeing you at a show at the Velvet Elk, and I wasn't sure if like that was the band because I went for a different band, but there was like some band that was opening. But
Oh, it was Lady and Handmade Moments.
Handmade
I think
Moments,
that we
that's
saw.
what it was.
Yeah, different vibe, folksy vibe.
Cool.
The
That was fun.
Reminders, I think, played Bands on the Bricks a few years ago.
Cool.
So
Yeah,
they they don't only, make the MLK Day rounds and Modus rounds. They're also just an amazing hip hop duo.
cool.
I think those are the two updates I'd like to share. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Any more updates? Very good. Well, that brings us to, I guess I'll share like a quick update. I'm starting back in school on Wednesday, so this will be my final semester at CU. So just like holding some intentions of where like the bridges to be built in the university and how like city university bridges. So just since this is my last semester there, just like holding that. So just holding that loose intention and sharing that. And with that, that comes to the end of our commissioner updates. Next section is follow-up items. I don't think we have any follow-up items. Elizabeth?
No, thank you. I think our main follow-up for staff is just to maybe if it's a conversation with Aaron and Carlos, just talk a little bit more, answer whatever questions you have, or provide some thoughts about possible activities, things that are on our staff work plan for 2026, of which there are several items, some of which overlap with your work plan in terms of outcomes, data tracking regarding claims and failure to pay wages for the ordinance and failure to pay wages, and also exploring together with our city attorney's office some opportunities that we may have to be able to strengthen and kind of give some more teeth to the human rights ordinance. So we have not, it's January 12, we have not started that work yet, but that's also a work plan item. So I think, again, the follow-up might just be a starter conversation with Aaron and Carlos in your roles to frame some of that up, and you can decide how to take that back to the February meeting.
Very cool. Thank you so much for that. So it sounds like all of our homework by next month is to take a look over that work plan and to really see what parts of those objectives call to us and any activities. And I think by next month, we can all come back with some activities, but it also sounds like Elizabeth and Christian, you might have some like things to bubble up from the city side that will help shape that. Carlos.
Sí, nada más quería decirte que si puedes compartir el plan de trabajo con nosotros.
Yeah, I think you can do that, Elizabeth. Share the work plan out.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the end of that section. Does anybody have anything more that they want to add before we bring this meeting to a close?
Question. Is this Emily's last meeting? Or not yet?
I think we've still got a couple more months with you.
For some reason, okay, so I'm not kicking you out. I just didn't want to like not take the opportunity now that we had a chance to get to know each other to like not see you again. Okay,
Just
sorry.
go quietly.
My mistake. Okay.
On the website, I think it says February, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
But
great.
I don't know. Christian was saying he was going to check into that. I don't know, Elizabeth, have you heard anything?
Honestly, we did not talk about that today, so yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like next month could be your last meeting. But we at least have you next month. And hopefully next month we can all be in person. So get to be together in that way. Okay. Any last things?
Well, thanks, Aaron, for your first meeting, and Carlos for your
Mhm.
support and assist behind the scenes as always.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate all of you.
Good job.
Have a
Thank you.
good evening, everyone. Take care.
We
Thanks,
will adjourn
everyone.
meeting.
Stay healthy
Gracias,
and
buenas
safe.
noches.
Good
Gracias.
job, Aaron.
Gracias,
Bye.
Elena y Rosabel,
Bye.
gracias.
Thank you, interpreters. Thanks,
Bye.
Elena.